Hey guys, gonna go over statistics for January 2024, give you a brief update as far as what's going on with the Calgary real estate market. I want to keep this video fairly brief, so I'm gonna narrow in on just one of the 8 zones, which is the West Zone, where I primarily do my business, okay? If you guys are interested in learning anything about the other areas of Calgary, I'm more than happy to go into deeper detail. Just get in touch with me and we can discuss those things. So, first off, I'm just going to make sure we're all talking in the same context here. So I'm going to show you a CREB map of the city of Calgary and how in real estate we define each of the specific zones. So traditionally, the city of Calgary uses the quadrant system for nomenclature. If you're not familiar with that, we have Deerfoot Trail right here dissecting the city east and west and extending all the way up north, also known as Highway 2, to Edmonton and through Red Deer. Okay, perpendicular to that, we see this guy here, which is Highway 1, or the Trans-Canada Highway. As it goes through the city of Calgary, we know that as 16th Avenue. Now that will dissect the city north and south, so that creates the quadrant system for us, okay? So the 8 zones that we use in real estate just helps us to better categorize the areas because they have similar characteristics, right? So this orange area here is what I'm referring to as the west side. You can see each of the specific communities that exist within that, okay? So moving forward here, we have west side of Calgary. Let's start off with detached homes, all right? So looking at statistics here, saying 3.8% rather, up from December 2023. About 10.5% from January of 2023. As you can see, the progression from January 2023 all the way up to August, it was almost linear at about 2% each month, which was quite surprising considering the fact that CREB, Calgary Real Estate Board, was projecting that prices were going to stay stable throughout 2023, and as a whole it was up about 10%, so they were off quite significantly. One of the major reasons for that, despite where interest rates were for all of 2023, is inventory was a huge problem, and it's actually not gotten any worse. So for 2024, they are saying that an 8% appreciation is kind of what is suggested. Now, again, take that into the context of they were off by about 10%, and they're typically quite conservative with their predictions. So, needless to say, it is going to be a fairly active 2024, in my opinion. Now, looking a little bit more granularly here into some of these statistics, you can see that December in the gold here, meaning that it is a down month in relation to the previous, and that's pretty expected just due to seasonality. It is the holiday season, it's cold outside, not a lot of people want to show their homes or go out and look for homes. They'll kind of put that off until January most likely. Now, that's why we are seeing an uptick in the month of January by about 3.8% from that amount, and the highest we've seen almost in the last 13 months, aside from August here, where it peaked. So a really good start to the month, per se. This number here gives us an average of those of all those months that are being summated. So that's why we're at about 855,000, which is a 6.2% gain from 2022, and quite a substantial difference for 2024 because we're only going off of the average of 1 month, of course. Now, in relation to the rest of the city of Calgary, the rest of the city of Calgary is also up about 3.9%. So again, the general trend across the whole city is staying pretty consistent, although the difference being is we're about $200,000 higher to be on the west side, as it tends to be the most desirable to live in. Moving forward here, you see the active and sold listings. What I want to show you is the number on top denotes the number of active listings that exist in the west side for detached homes. It started off at about 102. Inventory did pick up as you reach the spring market here, and then slowly dragged down to quite significant drop-offs for the last couple of months from November to December, and even another further 10% decrease when at the end of January when these statistics were pulled. So like I alluded to at the beginning there, inventory is a huge problem and it's just getting worse. So that's something I wanted to point out here. Moving forward to the actual listing absorption rate. So why do we track this metric? Well, typically anything that's over 50% as far as a listing absorption rate, that is what we would classify as a seller's market. And what that means is if half of the inventory were to get sold in a 30-day period, if there's no more new homes that come to the market. So at a 50% absorption rate, again, no new homes coming to the market, that means that all the inventory would get absorbed in 2 months. So what this means at 75% is that's actually going to happen much quicker than that, and just leave inventory even smaller, which of course just means that the sellers are even heavily favored more than that, right? So that is great news for sellers. It's going to be a tough year for buyers for sure. The last metric I want to kind of point out here is average days on market. It has increased slightly over the last 6 months, even from December. But what you have to understand is there was probably some inventory that was lagging and accumulating days on market for the month of December that ended up going sold in January. So it's not really a fair indication, a little bit more of a lagging indicator of what the current state of the market is. Now, what I will say is, and I'm just going to touch on this, this is very high level as well, is near the end of this quarter, so Q1, early Q2. Now, what I did want to touch on is mortgage specialists and people that are a lot smarter than me are kind of predicting that the Bank of Canada is going to be dropping interest rates near the end of this Q1 or early Q2 coming up in 2024. Maybe a quarter point or so, and then later in the year of Q3, probably another quarter point. Now, everybody is so hyper focused on what's happening with the Bank of Canada. Sometimes they don't even realize what the actual state of interest rates are. So I'm just going to show you here quickly. Everybody kind of uses a 5-year fixed rate as sort of a benchmark as well. So right now you can actually get into a 5-year fixed on an insured file for 4.84%. That's pretty good. A lot of people may not know that. So interest rates are kind of always fluctuating regardless of where the Bank of Canada is at. But as we head into the end of Q1, early Q2, if those rates drop further, of course, that's just going to amplify the already spring market that is very active with lots of buyers. It's going to increase buyer confidence, and competition is going to be quite fierce. As you just saw, there's a very lack of inventory right now. So if you're a buyer, I know it's really tight, but I do highly recommend that you probably take this small window of opportunity and kind of use it to your advantage, because prices are only going to jump up a lot higher than this over the next 6 months, in my opinion. Now, if you're a seller, what you need to be doing right now is you need to be having a conversation with your real estate professional, talking about what are the things that I need to do right now in order to prepare my home for sale in the springtime. Springtime is going to be the time, again, where the number of transactions are going on, and I would be holding off until that time. But there's a lot of things you can be doing right now, whether it be minor upgrades to the home, or just other things in preparation for getting it listed. It's not a 1 week it's not a 1 week ordeal and leaving it up to the real estate professional to best market your home. There's so many other things that are going to have a much bigger impact on its selling price, and the onus falls on you and your real estate professional having that conversation and creating a roadmap in advance. So if you guys want to talk any more about any of this stuff, of course, I'm more than happy to do so. Just reach out to me. My contact information is in the description, and we'll look forward to chatting soon.